Hey everybody, Cliff Barron from Sutton Summit here. Here with my latest update for the weeks of, let's see what we got, May 10th to the 16th, 2020. This is for Milton and Georgetown. And before I get to the updates, I just always give this little bit of a tip. Let's see, a lot of people ask about revisits to a home. Once you sold a home, the buyer has in the contract, the buyer has the right to revisit the property 2 further times prior to completion with 24 hours notice, say, in the agreement. In regular times, it's a challenge because the seller has already sold the home, they've already mentally checked out, and they've already kind of moved on to their next place. But the buyer is excited to get in, and they're excited about their new home. They want to go see it, they want to show it to friends and family. So it's good practice to let them in. Whenever I represent a buyer, I always say, let's do one of the visits just before closing so we can make sure the seller hasn't damaged the house or there's nothing missing from the house. Like I actually had somebody try and take a dishwasher once, and we caught them just before closing, actually physically taking the dishwasher out of the house and trying to swap it out, which wasn't in the contract, and we had to rectify that. But during COVID, it's a lot more challenging. You don't want anybody in your house to start off with. And then you sold your home, you're considered mentally checked out. The buyer's happy, they're excited, they want to see their new home, but because of COVID, you're like, no, you're not coming in. Meanwhile, you have a legal obligation to let them in. If it's in the contract, you have to let them in. So, as what I would say, we're all dressing in our PPE, we're wearing our masks, our gloves, and we're all very savvy about social distancing and not touching anything now. We all get the message, it's been out for months. So just remember, the buyer is just as concerned about getting sick as you are. So they're being safe at their home. When they go to your house, they're going to be safe at your house. They're not going to touch anything. They're going to be in and out in 10, 15 minutes, done. And then there's no hiccups close to closing and no arguments back and forth and bad blood or anything like that. So anyways, that's my tip. Once you've sold, they have their revisits, just let them in. That's all I can say. They're 24 hours, let them in, let them do their thing. Just, they'll be in, they'll be out, and that'll be it. Okay, off to the recent sales for Milton. Let's see, in 2019, we had 46 sales the past week. 2020, we had 14 sales. They've dropped, I'm almost to the point where I'm not even going to start mentioning 2019 because we all know they're down. So, we're down over last year. Last year, 2019, 46 sales, 14 this year. The average detached this year, this week, sold for $908 as opposed to last week, $900, so we've ticked up a little bit. There haven't been any sales of semis and townhouses. We've had 5 sales. Average $684 last week. The average was $632. But there is good news. I have some good news to report. Finally, good news to report. In 2019, last week, we had 60 sales, and we had 2020 last week, we had 14 sales. So in other words, we had, we were down by 75% roughly. Whereas last week in 2020, we had 14 sales. 2019, we had 46 sales. So the number of sales has actually been the same the past 2 weeks. Meanwhile, last year, the number of sales came down. So it's a sign that things have started to kind of pick up a little bit. I think, as soon as the May 1st opening came along and things started to open up a little bit, people are getting a little bit more confident. Buyers are kind of getting back in the market again. Sellers are getting back, getting ready to sell again. So I think we might see a little bit of an uptick in the market. And then we move on to Georgetown and Glen Williams. I'm adding Glen Williams all the time because the average buyer is not from Georgetown. They're from Milton, Mississauga, and they have no clue that Georgetown and Glen Williams are technically 2 different areas. In fact, they don't even know what Georgetown South is. So if you don't live there or do business in the area, you wouldn't even know. Most people don't know. You come from Mississauga, like, I keep hearing about Georgetown South. Where the heck is that? But anyways, let's see. In 2020, this is for the week of May 10th to the 16th, we had 6 sales in 2020. 2019, we had 12 sales. The average detached was $870. 6 sales, no sales of semis or towns. Let's see, if we look back to the previous week, we had 8 sales, so we've actually come down a little bit. And in 2019, we had 15 sales. So relatively speaking, Georgetown has slowed a little bit. The average detached has come down from just over 1 million to 869. But I said in my last video that a lot of the homes sold in Georgetown over the past, not this week, but the previous week, were over 1 million because they were rural properties. They were bigger properties with lots of acreage. So, you know, the market in Georgetown has kind of stayed steady. The market in Milton has started to pick up a little bit. And I find usually the Georgetown market kind of follows the Milton market, and the Milton market follows the Mississauga market, and the Mississauga market follows the Toronto market. It kind of filters all the way through. So things are looking better, just to let you know. Anyways, any questions, let me know. Send me a DM, PM, email, or old-fashioned phone call, and I'm always around to help out, and stay safe. Thanks.